Welcome to Dreams for Society, where we imagine, visualize, and create. I'm Lisa Hage, your host, and with me today are some friends. It's just so exciting because this is a live video, and it's a first of several that I feel that we'll be doing regarding mystical opportunity, mystical experiences. Life is a mystical opportunity. This is a book I wrote, My 3-Year Journey, and I'm going to read something out of it, an extraterrestrial experience. Today is July 1st, 2018, by the way. It's very hot out, so we're trying to keep cool here, and we're going to call in all of our friends as well. So before I do that, I wanted to just briefly let the viewers know who I am. Again, the host of Dreams for Society, and I usually do interviews. I've interviewed some of you in here, and I do all kinds of other things on the YouTube channel. And I have been, in one of my past lives, a longtime lawyer lobbyist, deep into the matrix, who never expected to have extraterrestrial experiences or what some would deem to be out of this world. Never expected it, never asked for it, it just happened. Before I get into all of that, let's do a little, I invite all of you to do a little collective clean and invite. The clean is going to be detaching any energetic cords that no longer serve us, and the invite is then inviting all of our friends that are in the high frequencies. Breathe deeply, collectively, here and those that are viewing us. As we disconnect from any energetics that no longer serve us, we ask that these energies leave us now and go through the portal to their home. They are no longer attached to us. We are no longer enslaving them. We thank you for your service in the past. However, we've moved beyond needing you, and we are now freeing you to be the wholeness you are at your home. We also ask that any energies that we took from others, whether it's an animal, a person, place, or thing, that we give those energies back right now. We lovingly command right now. We're releasing those energies to you. And we ask for all the energies that were taken from us. Please give those back to us as well, so that we can all be the whole rose with all of our own petals that we've always been. I call in the 5 clean masters that came to me in a dream. Pambala, Kayla, Mark, David, Sira, who sit at the apex of a 5-pointed star or pentagram. I call upon you, 5 clean masters, to clean out any debris left over from our cleansing today. And again, those here and those viewing. Thank you, and it is done. Now that we are clean, I invite you all viewing this and in the room to bring in all beings in every multidimensional realm, parallel timeline, and other space and time coordinates that are in a frequency that serves us. It's in our highest good and well-being, that is in alignment with joy, happiness, love, bliss, peace, courage, competency, capability, artistic, musically inclined, intelligent, loving. and everything beyond our imagination that is in the highest frequency possible that we can bring in and integrate into our cells and atoms right now. Thank you. And it is done. And as you come back, if you can, you might have had an out-of-world experience in that. I get this Kundalini rising, or whatever we want to call it, this energetic, I'm sure a lot of you feel it, it's just, every atom and cell. Didn't used to have that. So it was quite interesting. And when I first started experiencing it about 10 years ago, what's this? It's almost like I'm a walking pendulum. Whenever I hear the truth, I know it's true. So, I was optimistic that I could read and discuss 3 major events in this. However, I'm just going to do one. And I'm going to call upon the audience here gathered with us today to ask questions and provide comments. And if we have time to share, because I know we've all had our own experiences, we're remembering them more and more. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the first spaceship experience and also the first visit into the cosmos that I've had. Before I get into the exact story, I wanted to preface by saying that what I now know is everything is a frequency. Just like we turn the dial on the radio, for those that are young here, we used to have these old-fashioned radios where we turn the dial, maybe we still have some of those, and we turn the dial and tune into a radio station so we could hear the music. Well, when I don't know how to do, I don't remember yet how to do that voluntarily, but going back I realized that I was preparing and doing it. And when I turned the dial and went to the particular station, I went through like a wormhole and got into that space, that station where those things were happening, and I could experience it, just like we're doing that right now, but we don't realize it. We've tuned into this frequency, turned the dial, and we're experiencing this right here. And this experience I'm going to talk about, this particular one is just as real as where we are right now. Everyone looks human. The inside of the spacecraft looked like a building inside a building. Everything was as physical as this, and I felt like I was really there, just like I feel like I'm really here. And it was imprinted into me. I'll never forget it. It's like it happened yesterday. It wasn't like a dream we have at night. It wasn't like visuals we see in meditations. It wasn't daydreaming. It wasn't anything like that. It wasn't anything that I would say was of the mind. It was actually bilocating. And if you can imagine that, experiencing what I experience here, but I'm just in a different space. I moved to a different space through a wormhole. Just like we get into our car and move to a different space. So it's not impossible to think it can happen. So I wanted to let you know we can all do this, we're all doing it, and it's tuning into the frequency of the station so we can go there. And, what's a near-death experience? Some people have written about those in books and spent an entire book. This was not a near-death experience that I'm going to talk about. I haven't had any of those. I've never been near death. I haven't had those, so I don't know exactly what those are like. The only thing I can tell you is this experience was as real as this. So if I had tuned into a station that was so different and then wanted to talk about it, I would say, you're not going to believe this, but I was in a room with friends and I was in front of a camera and I was talking about blah, blah, blah. They're going, really? Where was that? I don't think that can't happen. Well, it happened because there's no one that can talk it out, talk me out of it happening. I know right now I'm hitting this chair and no one can talk me out of me not hitting this chair. Just like you've got Loki on your lap and you're petting her. When you leave here today, Latham and Phoenix can't talk you out of, oh, no, Dad, you weren't, Mom, you didn't have a cat on. There was no Loki there. You're like, what are you talking about? Definitely, I know there was. I experienced it. So this is what I'm saying. This is not a fuzzy thing. This is a clear and defined experience. So I wanted to preface that. Okay, any questions right off the bat on that? Okay, so I'm going to kind of just review this experience. And again, it's only like a couple pages, but it takes a long time because I like to interject with I didn't go, in the book, I left out a bunch of stuff. I realized. So this experience happened on April the 11th, 2010, 8 years ago, more than 8 years ago. So it's high time, right, that I start talking about this. And I had just gotten back from Bloomington, Indiana, which you all know is the home of Indiana University, an hour south of Indianapolis. I had attended an introspective truth conference, which my son, who was a sophomore at the time at Indiana University, majoring in neuroscience, and now he's getting a PhD in neuroscience, he put together this group called Introspective Truth. I mean, how amazing is that? Go introspectively and find your truth. And so he had like weekly meetings with people. It was a club of the Indiana University, like a club. And he asked the university, I'm going to have a conference. Will you give me some money to put on a conference? And they said, sure, we'll give you $8,000. You believe that? So they gave him $8,000. And he put it all on, he organized it, but he, ding-a-ling-ling, Mom, well, not really ding-a-ling-ling anymore, cell phones. Mom, I've got 3 speakers coming in from New York. No, 2 speakers coming in from New York and 1 coming in from Washington State, but they're all kind of landing at the same time at the Indianapolis airport. Will you go pick them up and bring them to Bloomington? Well, sure. I didn't know who these people were. I'm not going to talk about the other 2. They were fun and fantastic and very educational, but I'm going to talk about the one because she left an imprint as well on me, and her name is Dr. Carol Rosin, R-O-S-I-N. I picked them all up from the airport, took them to dinner in Indianapolis, and then drove them down to Bloomington and spent the whole weekend with them. And Dr. Carol Rosin gave a presentation that was out of this world. She started talking about how she took over the work of Wernher von Braun. Have you ever heard of Wernher von Braun? He was a NASA scientist, but he was a former Nazi from Germany post-World War II. He, as well as about 1,000 other scientists, were brought over from Germany and incorporated into the American NASA program. And Wernher was one of the brightest, the best and brightest, and also a very handsome man. And he developed the rocket and was responsible ultimately for our rocket landing, supposedly, that's up in the air now, on the moon in 1962, I believe it was. So Wernher von Braun had a come to Jesus kind of a awakening, and he recruited Carol Rosin, Dr. Carol Rosin, who had her PhD in, I believe, education, and she says, why are you recruiting me? I'm just a school teacher. So for a couple years, he taught her everything he knew, and he told her, he did some amazing things. Like, for example, he was too sick, he was dying of cancer, and he wanted her to take over his work, which was working to talk the secret space programs, which she talked a lot about, which I had no idea they ever existed back in 2010, and that there are secret places 50 miles deep in our Earth. You go down there, you never come back up to the surface because people have lived down there for lifetimes. And her mission, taking over Wernher von Braun's work, was to work against the weaponization of space. And I just heard that President Donald Trump is talking about a space force. So we're here. Maybe he's bringing out into the open what the secret space program's already doing. So Wernher von Braun told Carol, and she told us on this weekend conference, and I'm like, I had no idea what to expect. I mean, I'm a neophyte in all this, and I had to Google every time I had a mystical experience that was written in this book that I just told my computer about, and finally it became a book. What just happened to me, and I had to Google it, and it was just amazing. But she started talking about these things. Of course, I Googled all of it when I came home, which I'm giving you this background because I was tuning into the frequency. I was moving the dial on the radio station during this weekend. She said, well, I don't want anyone to record this because, she's kind of fearful of her life. She said, I was one of the panelists back in 2001 with Stephen Greer, Dr. Stephen Greer, who's an American physician, who's been all about disclosing the government's hiding of extraterrestrials. The Roswell crash in 1947 and that kind of thing. So he wants to disclose that, and he said that the reason why the government won't disclose extraterrestrials, she's relaying this to us, is because they operate on free energy. And J.P. Morgan, back in the Nikola Tesla days in 1930, when Nikola Tesla discovered free energy and he was building this huge tower that would transmit waves around the world for free energy. Well, J.P. Morgan said, no, we're not going to have that. I just invested in copper, and I'm going to move electricity over copper wires. You can't charge for free energy. That's the whole point. So if we knew about the extraterrestrials, we would also hand in hand know about all their technology. Are we ready for that? If we're still warring on this planet, I'd say no. I mean, we saw what happened in Oklahoma, and we saw what happened in 9/11. That was out of this world technology. That you can go down a rabbit hole on that. It's not what we were told. I really feel. And I had a client who was in the American Express building watching the towers fall. He had to run out of the American Express building, which they dustified. And then Building 7 dustified. It was never hit. So we have a lot of unknowns, but there are a lot of interesting things in this realm. So she was just throwing all this out, and I'm like, whoa, I love intrigue, and I'm kind of a private investigator at heart. I just want to know what everyone else knows. Not that I'm going to buy into it hook, line, and sinker. I just want to know what you think, what you believe. And there's the word lie in believe, L-I-E. So I don't necessarily believe anything. I only know what I experience. But I want to know what you all think and believe, right? So I did, from 2008 till present, I've probably spent, on the average, 25 hours a week researching. I want to know everything. And, the internet, the World Wide Web is like the Akashic Records. It's just fascinating. No longer do I have to rely on the old-fashioned encyclopedias that my mom had to buy once a week with grocery store coupons to get the whole set. At any rate, here we go. So on April 11th, 2010, after spending a long weekend with Dr. Carol Rosin, I'm now back in the saddle here in this house, at home, in my bed in the bedroom. And I am really tired. I had just Googled Dr. Carol Rosin, and I Googled Dr. Stephen Greer because she mentioned him. And I thought, interesting. And I was real open, again, tuning into the frequency of the station in which I was just about ready to go to, and I didn't have any idea. I had, uncharacteristically of me, I'm very fastidious in a way. I put my house coat on the corner of my bed, the right end corner of my bed. I never do that. I always hang it up. And now this is kind of a little, I don't want to say this is R-rated, but it's just the fact.
It's got whiskers.
So I like to go commando in bed, whatever. I like to sleep
the way you came into the world.
The way I came to this world, and so I'm closing my computer down. I'm so tired all of a sudden, after learning a little more about Carol Rosin and Dr. Greer. And for the first time since my ex-husband and I broke up in January of 2008, and this is April of 2010, I'm just going to sleep in the middle of the bed. So I'm like, I'm so restless. I'm so tired, but wait a minute, I can't go to sleep, but I was just so tired a minute ago. So I put my hands like this, and I'm trying to go to sleep. And it's interesting that I put my hands on my high heart chakra. But that's what I did. My covers were pulled up to my neck, and usually I fall asleep literally within 30 seconds hitting the pillow. And I'm having insomnia. And now all of a sudden I'm not tired anymore. I'm agitated. I'm energetic. I'm like, what's happening? Well, here's what happened. My heart, again, I'm tuning to the frequency and preparing for this journey. My heart started to vibrate. And I mean intense pulsations. I looked down and could see my chest moving up and out. And it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then like 5 seconds stopped, and it would do it again for several cycles. And there was this aura of light around my heart, and I became paralyzed. I wasn't worried about that because my son had told me about the fact that when he was paralyzed, when 2 extraterrestrials came into his room. So I wasn't worried. Okay, apparently people get paralyzed sometimes. Couldn't move a muscle, lying in bed. Like, oh, this is real interesting. And I wasn't worried about the heart thing because I'd had that happen to me once before, back in October of 2009, when a huge golden beam came through my ceiling. I woke up in the middle of the night just in time to see this huge golden beam come through my ceiling and went into my heart. And my heart was vibrating, and it was accompanied by a sonic boom. So I wasn't concerned about the paralyzation or the vibration in the heart. In fact, I was like, this is real interesting. So I was open, and I was not in fear. I was very curious and excited about what was going to happen. This is the key in order to tune into the station that is going to be fun. Because we're tuning into the lower frequency stations, and you might just say, ask for help to stay in your body. Just like I don't want to go in the middle of a combat zone and have the bullets flying at me. So I want to know where the high frequency stations are on the radio. And I was going there, and I knew it. I felt so good. So I wasn't sure what I was going to do, though, because I'd never had an out-of-body experience before. So at any rate, I also, what is going on? I could move my eyes, right? And I'm like looking out the door of my bedroom. It was open, and I had my block out shades down, and it was 10:30 at night, so it wasn't, and it was in April, it was dark out, and my cat was in the basement with the door closed. At the time I only had one cat, and all of a sudden it's like, is this like Close Encounters of the Third Kind? I don't know if you've seen it, but there were like these lights, kind of low lights, kind of rotating in the living room, and it sounded like I had a country western show on my TV that's behind the old-fashioned TV that if you open it up, wait, what's going on? It's like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. The next thing I know, paralyzed, the heart had quit vibrating. There are these lights and sounds in the living room. And I could kind of move my head, and I looked up, and I now realize the corners of rooms are portals, I'm just deducing all this from my own personal experience. I haven't heard this from anyone. The corner of my bedroom, right above my door, I saw me go feet first, like lightning speed, through the corner of my bedroom with my house coat on. So I said, well, gosh, I'm so glad I have my house coat on. So off I went. Now, I had no memory between that moment when I saw my body go out of the room. What I feel like is, and then the next space, which I'll tell you about, what I feel like is I was in the bed, my body was in the bed, but my Atma or soul or heart presence went into that other vehicle that was an identical version of me to go explore. I mean, I'm sure if somebody had come into the bedroom, they would have seen my body in the bed. I'm just guessing. I have no proof, though.
When you saw your body go through the corner of your bedroom, when you recall looking up at that, could you see through your body as it moved through the corner?
No, it was total solid. Total solid. So it went through the wall and like disappeared as it went through. And I didn't see like a portal or wormhole or anything. It just went through, just through the wall, through the corner. And I was so physical. So I call it a bilocation, yet it's not. It's a copy of my body, which I've had other experiences where I've been in another body. But this was an identical version of me going up there, but taking my Atma or my soul or my essence with it. So the next thing I know, I'm in space floating. And I don't think of me being back in the bedroom. I don't even think I'm there anymore. Because I could swear I went from the bedroom to space, that there's no body in the bed. Again, I don't have any witnesses to tell me whether I was in there or not. The only reason why I wonder if I was there is because I saw myself, like another version of me. So, but I really feel like if someone had come into the bedroom and tried to wake me up, they would have had to wait for my Atma or my soul to get back into the body before I could disconnect from that other physical body. So I'm up in the space. And, when you go in Colorado or Northern California, Mount Shasta, where there isn't any light pollution, and you look on a clear night and you see the brilliant stars, where the moon's not out on those nights. So you don't see a moon, you don't see planets, because they're all just white specks. You don't see a sun. But the sky's halfway light. I mean, it's not dark. It's, it's a kind of a violet color or dark blue or something. That's where I was. And I was sitting down like I was in a chair, but I had my house coat on and I was just sitting in space, floating. And I was happy. I was like, yay! I got to leave Earth. This is so great. Yay, yay, yay. I am so excited. Like, I thought this was a miracle. And so, because I was in really big joy, the next thing that happened was another unbelievable thing. I go butt first, not feet first or head first, but butt first, kind of like just in a sitting position or maybe even with my knees up a little bit, down what I now think is, I didn't know anything at the time, a wormhole or some kind of electric white vortex. It was like probably 10 feet diameter, and it was just like all this electric white light around me. And, it wasn't solid, it was just light. And it was just me in that tunnel or wormhole, and I was going butt first down, not forward, not up, down. And it seemed like maybe 7 seconds or something. And I'm like, how long is this going to last? And as soon as I wondered how long this is cool, but how long is this going to last? Because I'm always thinking, And as soon as I felt a little uncomfortable about the length of this journey through the wormhole, it stopped, and I'm in another space of the cosmos. And this space was not like the last space. There were no stars. It was kind of a twilight look, maybe, but lighter. And it was a huge parking lot of two different kinds of spaceships. One was a metallic or platinum, just your typical spacecraft that, is shaped like this. Just your, maybe even, actually it was really more flatter, just your typical, the same on the top and the same on the bottom. No markings, no windows, no colors, just metallic gray, no lights, and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, as far as the eye could see. And the other type of spacecraft that was there, which I thought was a planet, because I had no understanding that spacecraft could be spherical, like a ball. But spacecraft can be spherical, I'm now learning. And it makes sense because these round balls were, a little bit darker than this copper ball, kind of like a light brown, like this color. And you know what a billiard ball looks like that has a stripe around it? Painted on, well, I didn't think it was painted, but, it seems like now maybe it was, since it was this, I feel it was a spacecraft, was a stripe proportionate to a billiard ball in red. So around the craft, on all the craft, were a red strip, or was a red strip. And I'm like, I thought it was a planet, so I didn't want to touch them because I didn't want to hurt anybody on the planet. But I thought, even then I was confused because there were no clouds or markings of mountains or anything. It was very smooth, and there were just no markings at all. On this copper, you can see a little marking, but it was very smooth, no markings, and except for the red stripe. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. So I'm like, okay, I'm fine with that, right? I don't know what's to come. I don't even think about what's to come. I don't remember me being back in the bed. I'm in the now. I'm just thinking, how wonderful this experience is. And just then, a little spacecraft came up and nudged me on the hip. And I look at it, and it's about the size of a car, a small car, and it's shaped like a dolphin. So I thought, that's strange. It's a dolphin. All the others are the little regular craft that I was just describing. And it telepathically asked me, would you like to get in? And I said, you betcha, and see the aliens. See, back then I didn't know that they don't like to be called aliens. They like to be called extraterrestrial, apparently, or whatever. Maybe they don't even like to be called extraterrestrial. Maybe they are really terrestrial. Maybe we're all terrestrial, or we're all from the same hologram, and we're just playing around on different stations. So I'm like, you betcha. And I'm thinking, I wonder how I'm going to get in there, though. And just then, a 3x4, 3x4. I'm pretty good on dimensions. That's why I can kind of. It was kind of like this size, Opened up, where there was no seam. I thought, well, how am I going to get over there? So, because it's not like you can walk in space, But I kind of floated over there, or somehow I got over there. And as I was sinking kind of down into that opening, it felt like two fingers were touching what I now know to be called the perineum. It's at the base of your root chakra, and it's connected. It's kind of the middle prana tube, and goes all the way down through your chakras. It's the perineum. Both men and women have it, and I should have known this kind of stuff, but my generation doesn't know this stuff. So, unless I'm a nurse like you. Perineum. It felt great. And I was like, like feeling really good, and pre-orgasmic or maybe orgasmic, whatever. It was a real, oh my gosh, and I was starting to get a little concerned. Are you wanting, like I'm thinking, are they wanting to know if I'm a girl or a boy or what's the deal? I was like kind of concerned. I'm not comfortable with this. And it immediately stopped. I think back at it now, I feel like it probably was needed to be done to ground me, to get me into the craft. So now I'm in the craft. The next thing I remember, because there are these blackouts, right? I mean, I don't remember how don't remember the wormhole I went from the corner of my window to the first cosmos. And now I don't remember, I do remember I got in and then I see this blonde-haired gal flipped up like this, golden blonde, looked like 28 or something, and she had with her 2 twin boys that also had golden blonde hair. And they all said hi and greeted me and smiled, and then they walked into another room. Now, everything was nondescript. It was like gray walls. And this was kind of a small room that I was in when I saw the blonde-haired lady with the 2 boys, and they went into another room. She said, "Sweeties, let's go into another room." And then I had another blackout, and the next thing I know, I'm in a rectangular room, kind of long, not real long, but long, and I'm sitting at a bench. So I had a blackout, I guess, and I don't remember how I got to the bench. And there's no one else in the room, and everything's nondescript. It's, again, kind of like gray walls, except there is a bar area where there's water or whatever. And there was this young man standing at the bar area. And he had dark hair. He looked like 28 or 30 or something. And he had on an orange shirt, short sleeve, and black pants. And he wasn't looking at me. I'm sitting on this bench facing him, and he's there. He's not looking at me. No one else in the room, no other things in the room. And I've got my house coat on and my hair up in a little ponytail, kind of scrunched up, no makeup or anything. And I'm like, oh, I'd like to meet this guy, but I don't look very good. Then I looked at him, and it was as if joy is emanating from him that went from this universe to the next. It was so thick, you could taste it, you could touch it. It was amazing. I'm like, I've got to get up the nerve to go talk to this guy, because I got to find out where he is on Earth, because he's a human, I can tell. He looks just like all the rest, but he is different. I've never been around another human that had all this 100% joy. And again, he wasn't looking at me. It was just this sort of like auric field coming out of just joy, joy, joy. That was the word that came in for me. So I kind of saunter up there and, hi. And he looks at me and he smiles. And I'm going to get the exact questions. I said, the first one I said is, "Are you human?" Because to me, he looked human, but how could he be that joyful? We have the human condition. We can't attain 100% joy, unconditional love, no judgment. That's exactly what this guy was all about. It was uncanny. So I said, "Are you human?" And he said, "Yes." I said, "Well, that's good. Now I'm going to find out where he lives and where so I can go back and visit him on Earth." Well, I said, I don't know why I asked the second question to be this: "Were you born on Earth?" And he said, "Yeah, well, I work on Earth." What? I mean, that's not getting, I want to know if you're from Texas and I can go visit you there. I'm thinking, you work on Earth. What does that mean? Again, I'm a neophyte, right? 8 years ago. I said, "Well, why are you here? Why are you here?" I'm just like asking these crazy questions. And he said, "Well, I guess for the same reason that you are. I'm like, what? Why? I figured, I don't know why I'm here. And I said, well, where are the aliens? Because you betcha I wanted to get in there because I wanted to see the aliens, and the only aliens that popped in when I was getting into the spacecraft were, I couldn't think of any aliens except for Palladians and, oh yeah, Greys. Do I want to go see Greys? So I'm like, where are the aliens? And he said, well, I guess that's where they're taking us. And I'm like, uh-oh. Is this an abduction or something? I mean, I just started worrying, right? My frequency went, shh. And his eyes started to spiral and get fuzzy. And I'm big on eyes, the path to the soul, right? The heart. And his eyes just kept getting fuzzier. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And you know what happened next? I'm back in bed.
Yeah, that's what I was going to guess.
The minute I got a taste of fear, back in bed. I didn't even get to remember how I got back in bed. I'm like, what? So I looked at the clock, and it was 11:02, I think. Shortly after 11, like 11 something, 11:02, 11:01. I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't really lose time or anything. Maybe I didn't think of it then because I was still a neophyte in all this stuff, but I got to call somebody. Connor! Well, he doesn't answer. My son, who I just got back from this he's responsible for this. He's in his dorm room at IU, and his phone's been off forever. My daughter, though, is in LA. She's 3 hours behind. So I call her. It's only 8 o'clock there. Yeah, Mom, what's that? I tell her. Well, she'd heard a few stories by then because they were filling up in the computer on this book that was going to be later in the book. And she said, okay, Mom, yeah, I'll call you tomorrow. She was sweet about it, though. So I went back to sleep and, didn't think about it much after that. After I went on another spaceship journey, which I'll get into that on another time, in another series, I remember talking to my brother, who's 13 years younger than me, and we were both in our business attire, and it was at the convention center. He was in town on a conference, and I was in a conference, and we met at the convention center. And I said, John, you just got to hear this stuff. He's like, he's real sweet, but he thinks I've gone crazy. Now, I want to tell you something. I have never thought I was ever crazy. Ever. I trust myself. I never, ever doubt myself or doubt the experiences I'm having. So that's key too, I think. So I open it up. Questions, comments, thoughts? What do we have?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So do you feel that you were do you feel like you traveled interdimensionally, or do you truly feel like it was off Earth completely? I mean, I know the way you described it, you sort of felt like you were in the cosmos, but looking back on it now, do you have any indication of whether it was truly off Earth cosmos or whether it was interdimensional?
It's a very good question. I feel this particular one was, everything's within. It's all in our own hologram. I'll say that first and foremost is what I feel. However, how to explain all this stuff, when we get in our car and go to one space, like if I leave here and get in my car and go to Ellenberger Park down the street, was that interdimensional, or was that a trip in the cosmos? In the sense that it's not really the cosmos, but was it a trip between one point and another point on the surface of the Earth, or was it going interdimensionally is what I'm hearing you ask. And first of all, I feel like it was going from one time and space coordinate to the other, just like if I left here and went to the park. So I do not feel like I went into another dimension, because it was so physical, and it was, and just like this other experience I had where I went to the Garden of Eden, I thought I was in like a seventh dimension or whatever, but I realize now it's a higher frequency. It's just a higher frequency on the radio dial. So it's so simple, really. I feel like there aren't truly other dimensions. It's all about, as Nikola Tesla said, energy, frequency, and vibration. It's just about tuning in to any space and time coordinate. And eventually we're going to free ourselves of time, where we'll go to places that no longer have linear time. Now, the spaces I've been in seem to have linear time because I was attached to this world. I feel the higher frequencies, though, you don't think about time. And so when I was in the outer space or cosmos or whatever it was, I wasn't thinking about time. It didn't seem to rule me until I came back and thought, oh, I wasn't gone that long. So when I say time and space coordinate, maybe that's not the right description either. Maybe it was just another coordinate in the continuum of this hologram. So in terms of a multi-dimensional experience, what is that really? To me, it's just that we want to call it multi-dimensions, it's just dimensions with different frequencies. So I went into a station that did have a higher frequency. Everything there was a wonderful experience. So it definitely was a higher frequency. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to see this man who emanated joy like there was no tomorrow, that was beyond anything I've felt here or seen here through another vehicle, or my vehicle, myself, or any other vehicle. So that really was life-changing, the whole thing. But looking back at it now, meeting another human being, he said he was human, that had this joy, that was quite something.
What time had you gone to bed?
10:30. I was kind of shuffling around trying to get to sleep. I looked at the clock. It was 10:30, and then when I was back in my bed, it was I'm not so specific on this. It was 10:30 at night on this particular Sunday, and I was alone at home. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, I think it was when I started to get the heart palpitations after I turned my computer off, and then it was 11:02 p.m. when I came back.
Did it feel longer?
Well, that's the interesting thing. I think I might have been freaked out a little bit because I've heard stories about people are in their apartment and they lie in their apartment for 3 days and out of it. Maybe it's the same kind of thing. I was in bed out of it. If somebody had come in, they wouldn't be able to wake me up because my Atma wasn't there. It was somewhere else in another physical vehicle. And so they lose time for 3 days. And I'd have to ask them, did it feel like longer than 3 days? Well, I only lost a few minutes because by the time all that happened, the paralyzation and everything, I'm guessing, maybe 20 minutes was when I was out of body or whatever, bilocating. Did it feel longer? And that's the other interesting thing. If I look back, it didn't really, because of the blackouts. I mean, it didn't take me that long to get up to the cosmos. It didn't take me, I was only there for a few minutes, and then I went through the tunnel, which was only like 7 seconds, and then I was in the cosmos. I wasn't there very long. It seemed like a couple more minutes, and then the dolphin-like spacecraft nudged me, and then I was inside, and that was only a couple minutes to see the lady and her two kids or whatever. And then I was in the other room, and that wasn't very long asking the questions. So it seemed to sync up with the time that I lost. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yeah.
And this experience you described wasn't your first one, right? Or
This was the first
Was the first-
spacecraft.
okay.
I had one other spaceship experience with that were actually extraterrestrials that looked like light beings. They were translucent.
And comparing to the other experience, what is the difference among the other ones? I mean, the difference on how you travel to the other place.
Well, the other one, it didn't take long to tune into the frequency because I'd been on a journey in Wiltshire, England with Stephen Greer.
Okay.
And I was with 14 other people from all over the world, and I'd been tuning into that all week, or several days before this, and I was in the middle of a crop circle. And I'd been seeing symbols like a pentagram and the Eye of Horus. And when I was in a meditation in the crop circle with this group of people, I immediately was asked to go through the portal of this Eye of Horus and this pentagram, and I went through that, and then got on this spaceship that I was going to talk about a little bit, but I'll just share that briefly. And I was in a tube of white light with a blue parameter that I walked out of and got into the spaceship. And that spaceship, there were window to floor ceilings, and the cosmos were going around clockwise really fast. And I later found out that that's what Einstein said, that everything usually goes clockwise in space with the quantum physics and the vacuum and everything. So that was interesting. And that one seemed to be a healing ship. And I won't go into all the details on that, but the extraterrestrials, there were 6 of them, and it was phenomenal. And it was also a very good experience. And I shared it with the group afterwards. The difference was that the vehicle was through a meditation. Again, I didn't think about myself being in the meditation. So it wasn't exactly the same. It wasn't a physical ship, but it was as real as this. I mean, it wasn't physical because it seemed translucent in a way. And the beings were translucent and light, like crystal light beings or something.
The man, what do you make of the way that he answered your questions? Do you think that he was maybe a starseed or a hybrid or...
Yeah, what are you thinking? I'm still asking. I haven't gotten any downloads all these years, 8 years later.
I think the way he answered your question is odd and
it's almost like
vague. I don't know.
well, if I remember correctly, you said that he answered the question that that I'm here the same reason you're here.
Yeah.
Like you guys had almost signed up to have these kind of experiences, and you're in like kind of a waiting room of some sort. Is how I visualized it.
Yeah.
You're in a
Yeah.
Well, it's
Exactly.
the one thing when I'm hearing your story, because you said you actually physically saw yourself go through this corner, what's interesting to me is like, was this a dream state? Like, that's what I'm wondering, because I think the thing that's probably the oddest that I've ever experienced is that when I sleep, I don't go, like, if you go to bed and you dream, you may dream, oh, you're in this house,
Right.
and you're at your job and you're downtown Indianapolis
Yeah.
or whatever. Every night when I go to sleep, I don't dream that I'm at my house. I always dream at a different location that I've never been every night.
Awesome.
Which is weird. But it's always, and it's like I wonder if you were somehow tuning into some, like, were you actually sleeping at that point and just kind of going to this location or what it was? Or
Yeah, I would swear on a stack of Bibles. I mean, absolutely not was I sleeping. I never went to sleep. I was struggling to go to sleep, and that's when the heart palpitations came about. And boy, did that wake me up for sure. I mean, I wasn't asleep, but I was so tired, and then I was trying to get adjusted in bed, just like 10 seconds or something. And then all of a sudden these heart palpitations started. So I had no time to fall asleep.
Before the experience happened, did you feel like really energetically charged up from everything you'd been researching about Dr. Rosin and all of that?
Yeah, I did. I was so intrigued. I was like, wow. It was so different. I was still working full time and hot and heavy in the lobbying, lawyering world. And this was just beyond my comprehension, really. 50 miles deep, there are these underground facilities that, what are they doing, that you go down and you never come back up to the surface. What is this? And weaponization of space, and Werner von Braun talking about how Carol needs to get involved to stop the false flag ET invasion, which is really our own spacecraft and our own artificial intelligent beings, and the last stage is where artificial intelligence takes over our mind. I'm like, ew. That kind of stuff was a little weird. I was just really wanting to go down that rabbit hole. So I was just very energized, and then all of a sudden got extremely tired, closed the computer, and then when I tried to fall asleep like normal, just a couple seconds later, I was like really agitated, and I moved to the middle of the bed and put my hands like this, and that's when all these heart palpitations started. So there was no time to fall asleep. And I know for an absolute fact I never fell asleep. It wasn't like an out of astral traveling in the middle of the night. I've had plenty of those where you lucid dream and you visit all these different. I dream profusely and remember all my dreams. Like the 5 clean masters came to me in a dream, and I woke up and remembered it and recorded it, and they've been with me. So it wasn't like that. When I visited beings in these spacecraft, it wasn't like the 5 clean masters who came to me in a dream. They weren't this. It wasn't the same constitution. It wasn't the same experience.
So when you say this was a life-changing event, can you go into that a little bit more? So then what?
Yeah, then what? That's kind of the beginning of this book, and then I kept having more and more and more and more, and it's like, whoa. And, being kind of a skeptical lawyer, you had to hit me over the head with a 2x4 to get me really thinking. There's going to be I'm going to have continual series, because there's just so much I'd like to share. Then what? So this was 2010, April of 2010. I was already having miraculous things. I got a new knee. A red spiral was coming in and went into my knee. I didn't have to have any, I thought I was going to have to quit playing tennis or whatever. I have a new knee. New hearing came in. I'm like, whoa, so then what? Then I started to realize so many things, all of a sudden I noticed my diet had changed over time. I no longer could handle my job the same way. I wasn't interested in playing that role anymore as a lobbyist lawyer. I was becoming more joyful and less stressed. It was a whole huge transformation. And it's progressed and progressed and progressed, and I'm just not the same. I have friends who knew me then and know me now, and they're like, you are not the same person at all. So, yeah, so it's like, we knew each other, but we didn't really know each other. You saw me from afar. You probably saw that fake smile I carried around.
Look like a normal lobbyist to me.
Yeah, of course. Definitely. Yeah. Any other questions? Do we have any questions from our young guests?
I just wanted to hear. Very interesting.
We have we still have a few more minutes. We can take Anybody would like to share more? I know, Jan, you just shared a little bit about your dreams. Anybody want to share what you've experienced?
I can.
Okay, great.
So mine wasn't like yours. Mine, I go places when I'm asleep, and I don't have much recollection of it. And in this particular dream, or dream state, I remember a friend of ours who came and got me and helped me come out of my body and not be afraid. And we, there's a lapse of memory of how we got into what looked like some kind of a vessel. I would guess a spaceship, but I don't know for sure. It was a fairly small room, but the walls were translucent. And when you looked at the floor, we were sitting in these chairs next to each other. She was on my right. And we were sitting in these chairs, and when I looked down at the floor, I could see the cosmos. So it was like it was solid, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was really interesting. And she's sitting there with me, and we're both like, oh my gosh. And this being all of a sudden kind of appeared, and he was long and lean, and he looked humanoid, but not human. And he didn't speak the way we speak. He spoke telepathically. And it was almost like we were there for this class, and this thing kind of came down from the ceiling. It looked like it was sort of a screen, but it wasn't solid. And all of a sudden, these mathematical equations and chemical molecular bonds and all of this chemistry and all of these things started. It would flash on the screen, and then it would flash again. And Raina was next to me, and she was like, "I'm getting a headache." And I was so excited. I was going faster, faster, and it was moving through these numbers. It was scrolling through these numbers so fast. I didn't know what it was or what it meant. And then it stopped, and then I was back in my bed.
Do you feel those were universal equations? Or what do you think those equations were about?
I have no idea.
I've seen equations too.
But for some reason, I understood what it meant.
Yeah,
and it's in there.
at the time.
Yes,
Right.
and some of it I even drew. So I have a lot of drawings that I tried to remember that are in my journal.
Right.
So I don't know what they're for, and I frankly was never that great in science in school, so I didn't start understanding chemical bonds and how things work together until I started working with the chemistry of essential oils and plants and herbs and that kind of thing. So I kind of fell into that passion later in life when I was able to actually work with them. But the interesting part was I got up for work that next day, and I immediately got a text from our friend, and she said, "Do you remember last night?"
I love that when that happens.
And I said, "Yes, I do. Do you?" She said, "Yes, I woke up with a headache." She's like, "How in the heck did you watch that screen for so long?"
Did you hear that, boys? How do you explain that?
And it has to be like a radio frequency.
Yeah.
And her abilities are very different.
Right.
She came and got me because she had told me, she said, this particular time you were ready to go.
Right.
She said, sometimes I'll come and get you, and you keep popping back in your body, and I have to come and get you again because something is, I don't know, if something scares you and you go right back in or what it is.
Yeah.
But there have been times when she's come to get multiple friends, and we all go somewhere.
Did you guys notice the increase in heat right
Yes.
now?
I noticed that a few minutes ago.
Yeah, there's a huge surge of heat, a lot of great energy. Something Kat is saying is wanting us to integrate and assimilate, I feel.
So and here's the thing, I don't feel, it doesn't happen every night, it doesn't happen all the time. Much of the time I don't remember certain things, and I'll be awake and something will trigger it during the day, and all of a sudden I have to grab my journal and write something down, either a word or a symbol or something.
Right.
So that's
what
kind of
I'm
fascinating.
what I'm hearing, and I think that we picked up your voice really well, is that you had a very interesting experience, and I know people that practice this where, about 15 years ago I was talking to a friend, actually it was a client of mine, and she was working with a group of people who they actually did it in meditation, where they would all go to the same space and have the same experience.
Yeah, I have something like that too.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I told you, my first experience was when I was 3 years old. Yeah, and I used to live, like, I'm from Brazil,
Mm-hmm.
and I used to live when I was little for just 1-2 years, I don't remember, in a really, really small place, like small town, and then my family used to live in a place even smaller, which was like in the middle of nowhere, and we just had like the ocean in front of our house, and it was really like a magical place, really magical. It's a place that my whole family already saw, like a lot of space crafts and things like that. So I was 3 years old, and I was taking a nap. We had like a porch, and I was taking a nap by myself. And then it was facing the ocean. It was in the morning. And then suddenly I felt something so warm, like on my face, so warm. And then when I woke up, I saw all these lights, this primary color lights, and they were coming towards me. And then I saw, and it was a spacecraft. And then it was so close, I got so scared, and then it just disappeared, like...
Flew away?
Yeah. And then I saw the shape of it, but I was so scared because I was 3 years old.
Yeah.
So I ran to my parents and I started talking and explaining this is what happened. And I still remember how it was, and I still remember the heat.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oof, yeah.
And then later on, when I was teenager and with my brother and my sisters, we were in the same place. We didn't live there anymore, but we still have the house there and a family too. So we were there like, oh, let's, contact some aliens, and then like start doing like, aliens, come here, like, teenager thing. And then 3 came.
Ships appeared in the sky?
Yeah, 3, and they were playing, and they were making like a triangle.
Different
shape.
formations?
Mhm.
Were they like big stars?
They
Or did they have color to them?
They had color.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we were so fascinated, like, we did it, And then my whole family had this experience, kind of that.
And Brazil's more open than America, right? In this stuff? No?
Kind of. I have a lot of people that still think that this is, BS. This is
But none of us are crazy.
that I created. And then, like 10 years ago, I've learned some specific meditation that I talk to that I really can't talk much about it.
Right.
The details. But anyway, and then I've learned these meditation. And then I go to a place for more than 10 years. I used to do like every week, every Wednesday.
Perfect.
But now I do like once in a while. But so I go to another planet.
Wow.
And then I leave my body, and then I have to open like windows or door. I cannot like just go through it. I have to open, and then I position myself like that, like a Superman, and then I just like it goes so fast. And when I leave the Earth, I always hear like a noise, like
Oh.
it's really weird. When I got there, and it's really fast.
Is it almost like a membrane sound? Like you go through a membrane, like a...
Yeah, something like that. And then when I got there, it's so fast. And then when I got there, I have to jump to get another
Oh, really?
planet. Yeah,
That's
and then,
cute.
And that planet looks like a lot of Garden
Garden of Eden? Yeah.
A lot. And then there's one place that looks like the Garden of Eden, but I just go there sometimes just to check, because I had to check in the beginning from the meditation. I had to check the sound of a bird, the water. I drink the water just to check if it is real. But I don't go there. I just go there just to check. And then there's a building that I have to go. And that building looks like a Maya building, kind of
Maya temples
Maya temples.
down in the Yucatan,
Yeah. Looks
Mexican
like
Yucatan.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it's more like, it's really clean. There's no like, it's really, really clean. But the shape looks like that.
Right. It looks more brand new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I enter, and then there's a long hallway, and then it's full of water until like my knees. So I have to walk through this water, and it's really dark. And there's the first room that I never entered, and it's full of books, but I don't feel like I can do it, so I never enter it. And then you tell me, try to go there.
Yeah. Whatever you're.
But I don't feel like invited. You know, I was
Yeah.
like, I don't want to go. And then I go to the next room where I meet my two guides, which is a couple, and which is blonde hair too, like
Yeah.
really
What is
blonde
this about
hair.
the blonde hair? I wonder.
And they don't talk. They use their
Telepathy?
mind to talk to
Mhm.
me. And they put me in a chair. They always clean my feet, and they open my brain.
Oh, they open your crown chakra.
Yeah, and they
And you
put
can feel.
something.
Can you feel air move like through your?
No, not that I remember. Yeah.
But this is a recurring visit,
All the time. 10
Yeah.
years.
and you just don't go into the library and read the books yet.
And
I
never.
want you to.
And
so
there's
you can
like
come back and tell me.
there's about 6 other beings there, but I can't see the face because they're covered with like.
I
you know,
read somewhere
something.
that our guides don't always show us their face. But go ahead.
Yeah, there's those 6. They never show it, and when I try to see them, they give their
Oh,
back.
okay.
They're not nice. So and they don't walk. They kind of fly.
Float?
Levitate.
Yeah.
Like
Mhm. Yeah.
fly?
Yeah.
Yeah, levitate above the surface.
Yeah, but I don't talk to them. I don't know about them. So I'm talking about that because I never thought this would be like an extra ET experience.
Right.
I
What do you
never-
think they are?
I thought it was, my meditation thing.
Yeah.
But now, like hearing all these
Yeah.
stories, it seems like it is another planet
Other-
for
well, they're-
real.
It doesn't feel like you're here on Earth, right?
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also because I have to travel,
Right.
then I have to come back,
Right.
and I'm not sleeping.
Yeah.
And it takes everything that happens is so intense,
Mhm.
but it takes in the Earth time like 5 minutes.
Now, yeah, isn't that interesting? So you weren't gone very long, but you had a longer experience when you were asking.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Did you remember yourself did you kind of lose sight of the fact that you were meditating? You were kind of in the now, and when you do this, do you remember being at both places, in the bed or your meditation wherever you are?
Just there.
Just there. Yeah, that's when I get into it deeply, I forget about where I came from.
Yeah.
So you did too. Okay.
Yeah. And if for some reason somebody interrupts me, which is, I think happened just once,
Yeah.
twice maybe, like in 10 years, I don't remember all, but it's just like really quickly, I feel like that I just jump through these tunnel of.
Yeah. So
Or
like your
you-
atma has to quickly get back
Yeah.
into your physical
Yeah.
body here.
But it's
Yeah.
not good.
It's not good
No.
when you have to do it quickly. Do you have a headache afterwards or anything? No,
I
it's
don't
just,
remember.
but you just sort of feel discombobulated or.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I just love this. Any other thoughts or experiences? We have maybe about 5 more minutes to wrap up. Any other questions?
I do want to say one more thing. I just want to thank you for sharing your experiences with everyone, because it occurs to me, and I think I said this yesterday speaking to another member of your audience, that when, we whether we like it or not, we do have a belief system. There's some kind of framework.
Mm-hmm.
And each time someone has an experience or shares something with us or shows us something that challenges our perceptions or our belief systems, we expand a little bit more. And just think about it. No one ever thought way back, and Thomas said it well, with Edison's days that we would have a phone, but here we are on cell phones. Who would think that that would be a primary mode of communication for all of us? So when someone stands in their truth and they share something that seems extraordinary, it helps us move past our own belief systems because we know that more is possible. So thank you for doing that for
And
us,
thank
because
you.
I think it's really important that we have people like you in our community that are ready and willing to speak their truth, because it helps all of us grow.
Thank you for that comment, and thank you for your experiences and all of your experiences as well. It helps me through my journey know that there's more to life than what we see here in this, whatever this is. So, thank you all for being here. Again, I'm going to have a series of these. I'm not sure if they'll be on a consistent basis. Whenever the beings say, hey, I think it's time to start talking again. I'd like to close out the circle. I'm getting a nudge. I have never done this before, because it's not like a meditation in a sense, but we started out with sort of a meditation. I'm hearing some being somewhere saying, Lisa, close out the circle so that we know to go home now. So if we can all thank the beings that have been here with us during this discussion, and all the viewers that view this videotape going forward. We love you so much. We thank you for your service and support, and we know we're never alone. And so it is. Until next time, again, I'm Lisa Hayes, your host for Dreams for Society. Always remember, we can imagine, visualize, and create our dreams. Thank you. Until next time. Bye-bye.